The shocking truth about Deuteronomy. Revealed at midnight like never before. The clock struck midnight, slicing through the thick air like a knife. An eeriness enveloped the small town, where shadows whispered secrets and the wind howled like a restless spirit. They say the truth sleeps at night, but on this night it was awakened. A ragged group gathered around the old church, their faces twisted in disbelief, as a flickering light emanated from the grimy stained glass. It was a sight too haunting to look away from, like a moth drawn to a flame. Rumors buzzed through the crowd. What ancient knowledge had been uncovered? What terrible, scandalous truths lay hidden in the dusty pages of Deuteronomy? It wasn't just a book of laws. It haunted people like the ghost of a memory long buried. Those who dared peek inside often emerged with more questions than answers, their minds churning with unease and terror. What had they unleashed? What if they discovered something that was never meant to be found? A chill crawled up their spines like skeletal fingers reaching for warmth. The slightest tremor in the air sent hearts racing, each pulse drumming louder as they wondered who would take the first brave step toward the doors that creaked like old bones. A glance exchanged between two friends felt heavy with 1,000 unsaid words, as their breaths painted fog on the night air. Did they truly want to know? Or was ignorance bliss in a world where wrong shapes can twist a life beyond recognition? Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The tension was palpable, suffocating like thick fog wrapping around them. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed, shattering the quiet. A figure lurked at the church's entrance, shrouded in darkness, beckoning them forward. Was it friend or foe? The gathered crowd gasped, their pulses racing in unison. What would this unearthly presence reveal? The impossible choice loomed between the familiar comfort of the known and the terrifying uncertainty of the revelations to come. One thing was certain. The midnight hour had awakened a mystery begging to be solved, and now there was no turning back. What waited inside those doors? Lingering like a dark secret. The air shimmered with apprehension. An unease gripped the crowd as the figure stepped forward, its face barely illuminated by the flickering lantern on the church porch. Who were they? A messenger or a harbinger of doom? The crowd shifted, restless bodies moving as if caught in a tidal wave of fear. Come closer. The voice was a rasp, rough as gravel but laced with urgency. The figure gestured with a long, bony hand, and despite the overwhelming dread, some couldn't resist the pull of curiosity. A handful of souls stepped forward, breaking the barrier of whispers that held them back. Don't! Someone yelled. It was Emma, her face pale, eyes wide with terror. She clutched her friend's arm, her grip like a vice. We shouldn't trust them. But it was too late. The first of the brave souls, a man with wild hair, crossed the threshold. The moment he did, the ground beneath them seemed to vibrate, a low thrum that reverberated through the air. Gasps echoed as if the earth itself protested. Wait, another voice trembled. It was Henry, an old man with a history deeper than the town's roots. If this is connected to Deuteronomy, if what's inside is real, he trailed off, the implication hanging heavily in the air. The figure stepped into the dim light, revealing an unsettling smile, sharp and knowing. You seek truths, do you not? Twisted laws hidden within ancient texts. It tilted its head, eyes glinting like shards of glass. Truths that can make or break your very souls. Fear mixed with fascination. The crowd tightened around the church, drawn by the promise of revelation. Some hesitated, shaking their heads as if trying to dispel the weight of what the figure hinted at. But their voices were drowned out by a growing chorus. Show us! Show us! Inside the church, darkness pooled, thick as molasses. The glow of the lantern illuminated only flecks of dust swirling in the air, sacred yet sinister. Glances exchanged with nervous energy. Whispers cranked up the tension, questions firing like bullets. What lay hidden beneath the floorboards? What horrors or miracles lingered within pages of Deuteronomy, waiting to ensnare them? With a sudden movement, the figure turned and pushed open the heavy wooden door. A creak echoed like a spine-chilling scream, the air thick with a stale odor of old wood and something more pungent, like burnt offerings from a forgotten ritual. The silhouette vanished within, leaving the door ajar, inviting and foreboding. Do we really want this? Emma's voice quaked, barely above a whisper. What if we find out things we can't unlearn? What if not knowing dooms us? Came a reply, resolute. There was something primal about that moment, the inevitability of choice hanging like a ripe fruit on a branch, waiting to be plucked point one by one. They hesitated, fear and curiosity waging war within them. The wind howled again, as if echoing their internal struggle. Finally, a woman stepped forward, determination set in her jaw. I have to know. I refuse to live in ignorance. With those words, the crowd surged forward, caught in the current of collective resolve. As they crossed the threshold, a sense of dread and excitement clashed within each heart. A primordial truth was about to unveil itself, a dark revelation nestled deep in the pages of Deuteronomy. Just as they stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind them. A chilling finality echoed through the old church, and a thought lingered in the air. What would they discover, and who would they become once the truth was revealed? Their fates were sealed. Now, they were bound to face whatever horrors awaited within those walls. Darkness enveloped them as they huddled in the musty interior of the church, the faint glow of the lantern barely holding back the shadows. Nervous breaths echoed in the oppressive silence, a reminder of the weight they had stepped into. Emma felt her heart hammering in her chest, an erratic drumbeat of fear as she scanned the walls, half expecting secrets to leap out at any moment. I can't see anything." A voice broke the stillness, panic threading through the crowd. It was Mason, a boy barely in his 20s, his hands trembling as he groped for something solid to ground himself. "Just hold on," Emma soothed, taking a step nearer, though her own fear was a wild beast clawing at her throat. Silence. The rasp of the figure echoed from somewhere within the shadows, a shiver running down Emma's spine. "Your questions will be answered, but you must first embrace the truth, all of it." As it spoke, the lantern flickered violently, casting twisted shadows that danced like lost souls across the stained glass windows. Images that once depicted saints now mirrored the fears of the townsfolk, grotesque faces morphing into anguished cries. Gasps erupted, voices rising in a cacophony of dread. "Is this some kind of trick?" shouted a woman in the back, her voice quivering. "What is this place? Not a trick, a revelation." The figure stepped closer, the light revealing more of its unsettling grin. "Long have you buried what you should know. Secrets of your ancestors, the very essence of your existence, lie here. Know this, the laws of Deuteronomy are not merely words. They're a prism through which reality bends." Emma's heart raced. "What do you mean by that?" Now, curiosity is the key, I assent it." The figure lowered its head slightly, eyes glinting with a malevolent understanding. "Are you ready to peel back the layers? To discover the calamities foretold that await this town? Or are you to dissolve back into ignorance? Because ignorance comes at a price." A chill swept through the air, thick with a sense of impending doom. Suddenly, a tremor resonated from the ground, a deep rumble thrumming beneath their feet. They stumbled as the floor groaned, ancient with straining against a dark force. "I think we should leave," someone shrieked, the panic now palpable. "Fools!" The figure's voice rose like thunder, demanding silence once more. "The door is not similar to the one you entered. To retreat now would lead to consequences you cannot bear." Collective dread washed over them, an unspoken understanding that they were trapped within more than walls. Emma glanced at her friends, their faces a mirror of her own fear. They were standing at the precipice. "What if we find out something we can't handle?" Emma whispered, What if we find out we've been wrong this whole time? The thought lingered in the air, heavy like an anchor. Time hung suspended, breath caught in throats as the figure turned back into the darkness. Follow me if you dare. Its voice faded into the shadows, carrying with it the weight of a chilling promise. One by one. The crowd hesitated, until finally, they moved forward, their feet heavy against the charged atmosphere. Each step echoed uncertainty, a pleading to the universe. What truths awaited them in the depths of the church? In the heart of the silence, a whispered question from Emma slipped past her lips, barely audible. What happens if we unlock the truth? There was no answer, just the flicker of the lantern as light carved a path into the unknown. And as they ventured deeper into the darkness, an ancient, sinister revelation awaited, ready to rise from its slumber. To what end would they find themselves at midnight? The air thickened as they moved further into the church's depths, the flickering lantern throwing wisps of yellow light against the oppressive darkness. Shadows reached out, clawing at their resolve. Emma could feel the weight of history pressing in on her, and every step seemed to echo with the murmurs of those who had once walked these worn wooden floors. Where are we going? Mason hissed, his voice shaky. The group shuffled close together, survival instincts bubbling just beneath panic's surface. To the heart of it all, the figure replied, its tone a haunting melody that danced on the edge of insanity. Your ancestors left a map, a guide to the darkness they embraced. They feared what lay beneath, and now so should you. Twisting corridors loomed around them, adorned with peeling paint and dusty relics of a bygone era. The haunting memory of whispered prayers lingered like a ghost. The walls, once witnesses to sacred secrets, now felt like they were harboring betrayals of the past. A heavy silence blanketed the group. Maybe this was a mistake, Emma muttered, her voice cracking. She shivered, the chill seeping into her bones. Mistake or not, we're in it together now, whispered a girl named Sarah, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and determination. The vulnerability in her voice struck a chord within Emma, reminding her they were more than terrified souls in the dark. They were companions, bound by a shared choice. The figure turned abruptly, its face half illuminated. Listen well. The knowledge you seek comes with sacrifices. Are you prepared to fully embrace it? What sacrifices? Someone shouted from the back, desperation rising, a collective heartbeat of dread. Sacrifices of comfort, of blinding ignorance. What you uncover must be faced. The truth does not bend. It shatters. With every word, the tension in the air thickened. The church groaned, wood creaking ominously under unseen weight. Stop talking in riddles, Emma exclaimed, frustration bubbling. We need to know what's coming. What happened here? But the desire to know can lead to nightmares, can it not? The figure retreated slightly, eyes gleaming as if relishing their unease. You are about to learn how intertwined your fates are with the cursed legacy of this place. Emma felt her breath quicken, the realization that whatever haunted the church also clawed at her own lineage. She was not just seeking the truth of the church. She was creeping closer to understanding herself. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the dark, followed by frantic whispers. Did you hear that? Mason stammered, clutching Emma's arm. What was that? Another voice trembled, eyes darting in every direction. The figure raised its hand, silencing the crowd. Fear is both the key and the lock you hold. What you face will stir your deepest anxieties, and once revealed, not all can turn away unscathed. Emma shivered, her heart pounding violently as they pressed on. A desperate march toward revelation. She couldn't help but wonder if stepping into history would lead them to salvation or doom as they rounded a corner. The lantern's glow revealed an eerie chamber, the floor littered with worn books, their pages crumbling like forgotten memories. In the center, a pedestal stood, an ancient tome resting atop it. Behold, the figure whispered, voice thick with anticipation. The truths buried long ago. But as Emma stepped forward, a violent tremor jolted through the ground, and the church's very foundation began to groan. The pedestal trembled dangerously. What's happening? Sarah shouted, fear crystallizing in her wide eyes. Embrace the truth, the figure bellowed, losing its cool mask to frantic urgency. Or be consumed by what comes next. As the lantern flickered ominously, Emma reached for the worn tome, her fingers tingling with an electric shock. A cold wind swept through the chamber, tossing open pages as whispers began to rise like dark smoke. What truths lay hidden within those pages? And would they make it out in one piece? The answers began to pull her in, but at what cost? With a heart pounding against her chest, Emma took the plunge. Pulling the book closer, in that moment, she realized she was about to dive into a reality far beyond what she could comprehend, but was she truly ready for what lay beneath? Emma's hands trembled as she gripped the tome, its leather cover worn and cracked, as if it had witnessed the slow decay of centuries. The atmosphere shifted around them, heavy with an unseen weight that seemed to pin her to the ground. She could feel the tension gripping the air, a palpable pulse that wrapped around her throat, making it hard to breathe. "Open it," Mason urged, his voice barely above a whisper. Every ounce of courage he summoned drowning in fear. The figure deranged with urgency, almost pleading, "The past waits for no one. Unravel the scarlet thread that binds you to this place." With every ounce of strength, Emma pried the book open. The frayed pages rustled like whispers in her ears, a language of lost souls beckoning for liberation. As she began to read, the words twisted into visions that enveloped her, shadows of flickering candlelight, echoed prayers, and a haunting hymn sung by those long gone. Suddenly, a chilling wail pierced through the chamber. It echoed off the walls, amplifying their dread. Sarah clutched Emma tightly, her breath quickening. What was that? Her voice cracked with urgency. Something awakened, the figure rasped, eyes gleaming with dark delight. "The truth has a voice, and it is louder than you think." As Emma turned each page, images erupted in her mind, flashes of an ancient ritual dancing before her. It was a scene drenched in horror, figures cloaked in shadow, gathering around the altar, their chants growing more heated, a chaotic symphony of intent. Then came the revelation, a name that sent ice through her veins. Abaddon, the biblical figure of destruction. It was more than just a name. It was a call to arms, a legacy embedded in her bloodline. "What does it mean?" she gasped, her skin crawling with inexplicable dread. "It means you are tethered to the darkness, whether you acknowledge it or not," said the figure, its voice dripping with malevolence. "Your ancestors turned their backs on the light. Now it's your turn to either stand or drown." The ground quaked again, fiercer this time, and the walls seemed to close in, the shadows shifting with a life of their own. Emma could feel panic clawing at her throat as she focused on her breathing. "We have to leave," she shouted, but her voice was swallowed by the cacophony rising around them. "No," Sarah cried, tears streaming down her face as her grip tightened on Emma's arm. "We can't leave now. We need to understand." But as she spoke, the ancient tome began to glow, illuminating the pages with an ethereal light. Shadows recoiled, shrieking as they were drawn towards the book. The air became thick with a putrid odor, something not of this world. "Embrace the truth," the figure howled, eyes wide with a frenzied excitement. "Only then will you find salvation. Only then can you break the curse." Emma felt like she was torn in two. Panic tightened around her chest, but the pull of the glowing pages was undeniable. A strange sense of power surged through her veins as the shadows closed in, echoes of her ancestors' murmuring warnings mixed with a seductive promise of power. This moment was no longer just about the church. It was about her, her choices, her lineage. "What's the cost?" Emma whispered, feeling the weight of the question heavy on her shoulders, the truth threatening to consume her like a wildfire. "Everything you thought you knew," the figure replied, voice slithering with anticipation. "But are you willing to back away now?" As the air crackled with energy, Emma hesitated. Could she really make that leap? What role would she play in the unfolding chaos? As her heartbeat synchronized with the pulsing glow of the book, the tremors settled briefly, leaving an eerie quiet in their wake. The shadows paused. Emma held her breath, not knowing if it was out of fear or a burgeoning intrigue for what lay ahead. Do you dare to peel back the layers? The figure taunted, leaning closer as if to peer into her very soul. Or will you let what's buried consume you whole? With a last glance at her companions, their faces illuminated by the glow fear, courage, uncertainty mingling in their eyes, she made her choice. Emma turned the page, and what she found shook the very core of her being. The truth was not just hidden in history but simmering in the darkness, waiting for her to unveil it. But would she be the key to power, or was she stepping into a trap laid by those who walked this path before her? Feelings of dread clawed at her insides as she whispered the next line aloud, unaware of the chaos it would unleash. What awaited her in that treacherous revelation? The truth promised to be both a gift and a curse, and as the shadows danced closer, she wondered if she had made the right choice. Would she survive to explore the next layer of darkness? As Emma's lips formed the whispered words, the air around her thickened dangerously, like molasses trapping her in a sticky web of dread. The moment that syllables left her mouth, the glowing pages erupted in blinding light, casting shadows that danced wildly on the walls. Sarah shrieked, pressing her body closer to Emma, as if sharing the brunt of this impending doom. Mason staggered back, hands raised instinctively, as though trying to shield himself from an unseen force. "What have you done?" he yelled, panic splintering his voice. But Emma was lost to the chaos unfolding. The moment her voice echoed in the chamber, time warped. Visions began swirling, images flaring up like fireworks in the night sky. She saw a darkened throne, crowned by a figure cloaked in smoke and agony. "I can give you power, Emma." The voice echoed, sharper than glass, filling her mind with promises. Power to control your legacy, your destiny. Yet even as the offer lingered, she sensed a darkness roiling just beneath, a gnawing tug of warning. "Don't listen." Mason's voice broke through, desperate. He was still reeling from the sheer force emanating from the tome, but even he could sense it. There was something ancient and vile that writhed just beyond the light. Emma's heart raced. Sweat dripped down her brow. "I need to know what this all means," she gasped, feeling the intoxicating pull of the secrets being revealed. The tome throbbed with energy, words geared into her mind, a searing pain that felt both excruciating and thrilling. The name Abaddon echoed again, louder now, vibrating inside her skull like the tolling of a harrowing bell. The walls around them groaned, their very existence tethered to the monster she was diving deeper into. Muffled cries of her ancestors crept into her thoughts. "Free us, don't make the same mistake." Their voices blended into the wailing fury of the shadows circling her, a maelstrom of agony and longing. "Emma," Sarah pleaded, horrified yet unwavering, stepping closer to her friend. "Please, stop. You can't just..." But Emma was no longer just Emma. She felt an echo of strength coursing through her, intertwining with the shadows that beckoned her. Was power really worth this torment? Each heartbeat drummed a chilling rhythm in her ears. She had a choice to redefine her fate, to embrace or resist. "Your bloodline craves what you deny," the figure hissed, eyes sparkling with madness. "Imagine a throne of your own." A whisper in the winds of fate. The shadows leapt forward, dancing like flames, hungry for contact. They curled around Emma's feet, pulling at her ankles as the tome pulsated brighter. Sparks erupted and flickered out, igniting the air with whispers of fear. "Stand firm," Mason shouted, urgency lacing his tone. "We can fight this. You don't need to be what they expect." In that moment, Emma hesitated, doubt flickering in her chest like candlelight before a storm. The shadows recalled fragments too tempting to ignore, taunting her with the tastes of power and control. Would she become the girl who defied her ancestors? Sarah reached out, her voice calmer now despite the tremors around them. "You're more than just your lineage, you have the strength to choose differently." As that last plea hung in the air, the tome vibrated angrily, erupting with energy like a volcano ready to spill its molten wrath. The entire chamber shook, and Emma felt the very foundation of time and choice ripple beneath her as the shadows flared in fury. "Make your choice," the figure howled, lips curling with savage delight. Just as Emma opened her mouth to respond, A thunderous crack echoed through the chamber, and the floor beneath them began to fracture. Chunks of stone tumbled as if the very earth rebelled against the darkness being summoned. Emma looked to her friends, and for a moment, their eyes met, fear mingling with resolve, and then she plunged forward into the unknown. What awaited her on the other side was yet another layer of horror and truth. Would she embrace this monstrous legacy, or could she grasp onto the light? Questions raced through her mind as the ground beneath them crumbled, sending them spiraling into darkness, echoing with the ghostly wails of her past. Could she rise from the ashes of what she might become, or would she drown in the tidal waves of her own making? The darkness enveloped Emma and her friends like a suffocating blanket, swallowing their screams. They plummeted through a void where gravity held no sway, fear twisting around their hearts with every passing second. It was as if the very essence of their being was being unraveled. Then, suddenly, a blinding light pierced the dark. They landed with a bone-jarring thud on a stark white floor, disoriented and gasping. Around them stood towering obsidian walls, glimmering with an otherworldly sheen. A disquieting silence draped the realm, punctuated only by the echo of their ragged breaths. "Where are we?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling as if she suspected the answer. Mason pushed himself upright, shaking off the disorientation. "This doesn't look good," he muttered, scanning their surroundings. "Is this what you released, Emma?" She felt a heavy weight on her shoulders. "I didn't mean to know," Mason snapped, anger lacing his tone. "You don't get to play the victim now. We're in the middle of some nightmare because of your curiosity." The harshness of his words stung. Emma's thoughts sang a haunting tune of remorse, but she swallowed it down. "I just wanted to understand," she defended weakly. "To know what Abaddon truly means." Understanding, Mason spat, fury flashing in his eyes. "Could cost us our lives." Before she could respond, an ethereal wind rippled through the chamber. The air whipped around them, swirling to form a solid figure in the center. It was the same cloaked being, its face obscured by shadows, but this time it loomed larger, menacingly dripping with power. "Welcome, children of blood," the figure intoned, voice dripping with malice. "You are not the first to find your way here. Many have traversed these paths, seeking what your ancestors once could not resist, the embrace of Abaddon." Emma's heart raced. "What are you talking about? Who is Abaddon?" The figure tilted its head, and the shadows that formed its body writhed as if alive. "A god that hungers, my dear. A god for which your lineage was a mere appetizer. Give yourself to him, and you shall gain what you desire most: untold power, the throne of your ancestors, and the ability to bend the very fabric of fate." With every word, a pulse of energy surged through Emma, threatening to drown her in its intoxicating promise. Power, control, the ultimate freedom. The whispers of her ancestors mingled in the background, pleading and warning in a deafening chorus. "No," Emma shouted, panic rising. "I will not become a pawn." Breaking free from the shadows that tried to ensnare her, she looked at Sarah and Mason, their faces painted with fear and uncertainty. "We have to find a way out of this." The figure laughed, a sound dark enough to chill the bones. "Escape is impossible. You have chosen this path through your ignorance. Embrace it or be devoured." "Don't listen," Mason yelled, lunging forward as if to shield Emma from the clutches of the entity. His courage surged like a beacon in the suffocating dark. "We'll fight. We're stronger together." The air crackled, tension coiled tighter around Emma's chest. The strength of her friends gave her a moment of clarity. Perhaps this was not the end after all. But there was another voice, deeper, resonating from the shadows. "Heed the voice of your ancestors, Emma. This power could save their souls if you allow it." Conflicted, she felt the weight of her decision pressing against her mind. With her heart hammering, she stood poised on a precipice, ready to plunge into the depths of fate she could never fathom. What would she choose? Power or salvation? As the shadows clawed hungrily at her heels, Emma realized that her next move might seal not just her own fate, but that of her friends as well. Could she resist the call of Abaddon, Or would she succumb to the darkness lurking within? The figure's laughter faded, replaced by a deafening silence that settled over the chamber. Emma felt an electric pulse of dread snap through her bones. She looked at Mason and Sarah, their eyes wide, mouths slightly agape as they processed the cloaked being's words. "We can't stay here," Sarah gasped, trembling. She took a tentative step back, but the figure's gaze seemed to draw her in, like a moth to a flame. "Emma," Mason's voice barked with urgency. "This isn't just about us anymore. It's about your family. Don't forget what they sacrificed. What do we even do?" Emma's voice quivered, panic clawing at her throat. The promise of power swirled around her, seductive yet dangerous. "Fight it," Mason shouted, his resolve flickering like a candle in the wind. "We can't let it take you, Emma. Remember the stories you told us? The sacrifices your family made to keep Abaddon at bay." The spectre-s figure shifted, its form growing darker, more ominous. "Your friends cannot help you, child. They are powerless against the tide of destiny. Only you can decide your fate." "Shut up," Emma spat back, her fear fueling a surge of defiance. "I won't let you control me." The shadows thickened around them. Whispers rushed in like a gale, fueling doubt, dredging up every insecurity. "You think you can escape? You think they would choose you over the power of Abaddon?" "No," she screamed, clutching her temples as if to fend off the creeping despair. "I won't let you take them." A flicker of light sparked within her, igniting a fire of resolve. In the depths of her anguish, she remembered the stories of courage, stories of her forebears who had gazed into the abyss and refused to blink. With newfound determination, Emma stepped forward. "If you want me, you'll have to break my will first." "Such bravery, child," the being hissed, sarcasm dripping from its voice. "But the price of defiance is steep. Are you willing to shed blood, your own or theirs?" Her heart raced, the chill of its threat coiling around her. "I'd rather die than give in." The chamber responded to her words, the walls vibrating with unseen energy. The figure wavered, as if the shadows were struggling against a force that tried to contain them. Yet, a twisted smile curled around the edges of its shadowed face. "Then let us play a game, a test of wills." Suddenly, blinding streaks of light shot from the walls, piercing the darkness and enveloping Emma. She felt a connection coursing through her veins, a surge of ancestral strength. Images flashed in her mind, her family fighting against the darkness, sacrifices made, blood spilled. Mason and Sarah shouted, "Emma, no!" Their voices sounded so far away, the light pulling her into an inception of shadows and memories. "Choose your path," the figure growled, its voice echoing through her consciousness. "What will you sacrifice for power?" Emma's vision blurred, teetering on the brink of consciousness. "I'll sacrifice nothing. We are not yours to claim." The pressure around her intensified as whispers erupted into a cacophony, urging her to relent. "The throne awaits, dear child. Just say the word." But in that critical split second, amidst chaos, a revelation stabbed through her turmoil. "Do you need me to claim the throne?" she yelled defiantly, her voice crystal clear. "Or can you only manipulate the weak?" "I refuse to be a pawn." Suddenly, the air crackled, and darkness began to wrinkle before her. The figure's form seemed to flicker and pulse, its power fraying at the edges. "Your conviction is impressive," it hissed, rattled. "But know this, child. With each choice comes consequences unimaginable." As the shadows writhed, an opening appeared behind the figure, a shimmering portal that breathed hope into the bleakness. "Now is the only way out." Mason's voice broke through the chaos, but the figure lunged, intent on snatching Emma back into its grasp. She hesitated, the gaping maw of uncertainty threatening to consume her. "Run!" Sarah screamed as Emma's feet moved toward the beckoning light. Her heart surged with fierce determination. Could she trust that the escape was real? Or would the shadows still bind her soul? The void behind her trembled, growing closer, insatiable. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown, every breath a gamble. Would she cross into the light and risk everything, or would they all be swallowed whole by the darkness? The choice loomed ahead, and just as she reached the edge of the light, she felt the shadowless icy fingers at her back, swallowing her last shred of light. What would be lost if they failed to escape? Or what would be gained if they took the risk? The moment Emma crossed the threshold into the swirling light, it felt like shattering glass. Energy surged through her body, a rush of warmth enveloping her as shrieks of despair faded into the ether. She couldn't tell if she was falling or flying, but when the haze cleared, she found herself sprawled on cold stone, breathless. Mason! Sarah! Panic clawed at her throat as she scrambled to her feet, eyes darting around for the familiar faces of her friends. Emma! Their voices cut through the shimmering chaos, echoing off the jagged walls of the new chamber. Mason stumbled to her side, his face flushed with relief but laced with urgency. "Are you okay?" he asked, gripping her shoulder. She nodded, but the doubt lingered in her chest. Could they really have escaped? "We made it through," Sarah chimed in, brushing dust off her clothes. "But the figure, did it follow us?" She looked around, her wide eyes scanning the shadows that crept along the edges of the chamber. Emma forced herself to focus. "I challenged it. I didn't back down." Her voice trembled slightly at the admission. A low, chilling laugh echoed from the darkness surrounding them, a sound drenched in malice. The figure stood at the edge, just beyond their field of view, malformed barely distinguishable against the walls of the abyss. The whispers started again. They snaked around Emma and her friends, trying to unnerve them. Distant promises of power wrapped around her heart like a noose. "You believe you have escaped?" the figure taunted. "Your journey has only begun. No more games," Mason shouted, stepping in front of Emma. Despite his bravado, fear seeped into his voice, adding a tremor to his stance. "What do you want from us?" "Ah, boldness," the figure crooned, a grotesque flare beneath its cloak. "You mistake power for freedom. Each decision has its price." Emma stepped forward, feeling the warmth of her friends behind her, threading strength through her veins. "And what about your price? The games you play with lives?" A malevolent grin crept across the figure's shadowy face. "You know nothing of sacrifice, child. Try me," she demanded. The chamber shook, and the very walls reverberated with the figure's fury. "You seek the truth, Emma? Then embrace your family's legacy. Only in sacrifice can one find true power. If you desire the secrets buried within the void, those you hold dear must pay the toll." Emma's heart raced. She felt the magnitude of the choice crushing her. Her mind spun with the memories of her ancestors, those strong souls who had borne the burden of darkness. Could this really be the only path? To let her friends suffer? "No, you will not use us," Mason shouted, stepping forward, his brow knitted in determination. But the confidence in his voice faltered as he met the creature's gaze. Suddenly, the shadows shifted violently, coalescing into a swirling vortex. Flesh and bone twisted in the darkness, and Emma saw flickers of images her family, in agony, in shadows, fighting against the very thing that threatened them all. "Stop!" Emma cried out, but it was too late. The figure grinned wider. "Will you protect them, or will you let them become a part of the darkness? Choose wisely, we can't give in," Sarah whispered, clutching Emma's arm. But the weight of that ultimatum pressed down on her mind. "Power promised at a significant cost, Emma," Mason said, his eyes fierce, yet tinged with worry. "Whatever they want, we do this together. But at what cost?" She asked, the question more profound than she intended. "Face it," the figure hissed. "In a world of shadows, the only way to break free is to embrace your darkness." Beneath her skin, everything felt raw and battered, a question echoing in her mind. If she explored her legacy, could she handle what she would find? As despair threatened to envelop her again, Emma made her choice. We can't let it win. With one sweeping motion, she pushed through the veil into the vortex, her friends rushing in behind her. A blinding light engulfed them once more, but this time, an exhilarating terror coursed through her. Would they find hope, or would the very essence of their souls be the price they had to pay? The answer loomed ahead, dancing just out of reach, taunting, almost visible. What awaited them within the depths of the Shadow's embrace? The light buzzed around them like excited electricity as they landed in a new realm, set apart by the heavy silence that hung in the air. Emma's heart raced as she pushed herself off the cold, unforgiving floor. Gone were the obsidian walls, replaced by a vibrant forest, bathed in a soft golden glow that didn't feel quite real, like something spun from a dream. Where are we? Mason asked, bewildered, brushing dirt off his jeans. The trees around them seemed to shimmer with the sunlight that filtered through the leaves, but Emma sensed the lurking darkness at the edges. Maybe this is our second chance, Sarah said quietly, scanning their surroundings. Maybe we escaped it for good. Just then, a rustling in the bushes startled them. Fear gripped Emma's chest as a figure stepped out on the path, a woman dressed in white, hair flowing like a river of gold. Her eyes sparkled with warmth but held depth that resonated with centuries of wisdom, a stark contrast to the horrors they had just faced. Welcome, brave souls, she spoke softly, her voice soothing yet commanding. Who are you? Emma asked, her voice trembling. I am the guardian of truth, the woman replied. You stand at a crossroads. The shadows you faced are real, but so are the possibilities that lie ahead. Emma felt hope surge within her, but quickly steadied herself. The fear of deception still loomed. Are we safe here? The darkness always seeks a way in, but it can only take root in the heart willing to succumb to despair, the guardian explained, stepping closer. You must choose. Face your lineage or forge a new path. As she spoke, visions began to swirl around them. Flashes of Emma's ancestors battling against shadows, fiery spirits clashing against pitched darkness, cries of anguish and sacrifice twining together. They fought for you, Emma, the guardian continued, to ensure you would have the strength to confront your lineage's legacy without yielding to darkness. What do you mean? Emma whispered, a lump forming in her throat. If you choose to embrace your family's legacy, know the price you pay will shape your future. Your power will swell, but it will demand sacrifices. The shadows from before began swirling at the edge of her vision, taunting her with glimpses of power, freedom, control, the throne promised by the dark figure. Yet alongside that came the faces of Mason and Sarah, full of hope, strength, and fearless resolve. A chill raced up her spine as she weighed her choices. I can't betray them, Emma said, a fierce clarity solidifying in her heart. I will not be what my ancestors didn't want to become. Together we can reshape our fate. The guardian smiled faintly, eyes glimmering with pride. Your choice is noble, but the shadows will not let you leave easily. You must confront them head-on. As the air crackled with energy, the ground shook beneath them, and the forest flickered. Emma realized the swirling shadows were rushing forward, eager to consume whatever light they had found. We stand together, she shouted, clutching Mason's and Sarah's hands tightly. They formed a pact of strength, a bond that surged with a warmth that radiated hope. Bring it on, Mason shouted as the shadows encircled them, dark tendrils reaching for their hearts. With a fierce determination, Emma caught her breath and held the guardian's gaze, drawing strength from her heritage and the friendship she cherished. We choose light, she declared. In that moment, their hands glowed, and sunlight erupted from their palms, driving away the darkness. The shadows writhed in agony, tendrils of darkness dissipating like vapor as light surged forth, carving a path of liberation. Finally, the figure of the malevolent entity emerged from the shadows, fury twisting its features. You think this is over? It screamed, but Emma stood resolutely, steadying her resolve. What I think is that you have no power over us, Emma shouted, every word punctuated with clarity, a promise of her choice to rise above the darkness. You will not define who we are. With that declaration, the shadows screamed and imploded into nothingness as a blinding light enveloped them, lifting them high into a spiraling vortex. When the light finally faded, Emma, Mason, and Sarah found themselves back in the old church, dust swirling in the air as if untouched by time. The oppressive silence now felt like a gentle embrace. The haunting stained glass glimmered softly, shedding colors that danced around them. We did it, Mason breathed, relief flooding his face. Yes, we did, Sarah echoed, hope radiating in her eyes. Emma glanced around the familiar space, a wave of triumph welling inside her. We are more than our past. We've broken the cycle. As they stepped outside, a new dawn broke a warm, golden light that promised a fresh beginning. The oppressive weight that once threatened to bury them with dread had lifted, replaced with sweet relief and possibility. With smiles breaking across their faces, they made a pact then, and they're not just to face every shadow that dared to cross their paths, but to do so together. Ready for whatever comes next? Emma asked, energized and alive. Always, her friends replied in unison. With the past behind them, embracing their brand new future, the trio set off side by side, hearts full of hope, bound by love, no longer haunted by the shadows, but rather empowered by their light. Now, as you've reached the end of this gripping tale, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe to the channel now so you don't miss any of our exclusive stories. Smash that like button, it truly helps us feed the algorithm and reach more amazing folks like you. Let us know what you thought of this ending flood, the comments section with your reactions and theories. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your engagement makes all the difference, so let's keep the energy rolling.